Dragons. They're half the name of the game. And today we're going to be talking about blue dragons. Unlike their red counterpart, who I also have made a video on, the blue dragon likes to have a cult underneath them. Whether this is a small gathering or an empire depends on about how successful the blue dragon has been in their lifetime. They are also desert-dwelling creatures, so they use the environment to their advantage, including but not limited to using the sandstorms for cover and being able to burrow under the sand. Now, I'll be going over the adult and ancient varieties here because, frankly, the wormling and young versions aren't super interesting when it comes to strategy. They keep away with their breath weapon, and then they fly in close to do their rend attacks. That's about it. The adult and ancient versions have more in their toolbox to use against the party. Now, my name is Monster Half-Life, and I would like to present how to run the blue dragon. We'll be going over both the stats of the adult blue dragon and the ancient blue dragon, simply because both can do the same thing. The ancient blue dragon just has stat boosts as compared to the adult blue dragon. The adult blue dragon has 19 armor class, an initiative of plus 10, and 212 HP. Their speed is 40 foot on the ground, 30 feet burrowing under the earth, and a fly speed of 80 feet. Their strongest stats are their strength and their wisdom, both at a plus 7 saving throw, and their weakest stat is their intelligence, at a plus 3 saving throw. As for their skills, they have a plus 12 to perception and a plus 5 to their stealth, and they are immune to lightning damage. As for their senses, they have blind sight of up to 60 feet and dark vision of up to 120 feet. Their traits are simple. They only have their legendary resistances, which lets them use legendary resistance either 3 times a day or 4 times a day if they're in their lair. As for how many times they can attack, they can make 3 rend attacks, but they can replace one of these attacks, which are use of their spellcasting, to cast Shatter. Their rend attack is a plus 12 to hit. It has a reach of 10 feet, and it does 2d8 plus 7 slashing damage, plus 1d10 lightning damage. But the thing that dragons are most famous for is their lightning breath, and they get a good lightning breath. It's a DC 19 dexterity saving throw, and each creature in a 90-foot long, 5-foot wide line needs to make that saving throw or take 11d10 lightning damage, and half damage on a success. This is different from a lot of the other dragons, which use cones instead of lines. As for their spellcasting, they have some pretty useful spellcasting, though not a lot of spellcasting. Their charisma is what they use for their saving throws at a DC 18, and at will they can cast Detect Magic, Invisibility, Mage Hand, or Shatter. And once a day, they can cast either Scrying or Sending. As for their legendary actions, they get 3 uses of it, or 4 in their lair, and they get to use this after each creature's turn. Their first legendary action is Cloaked Flight, which lets them use their spellcasting to cast invisibility on themselves, and then they can fly up to half their fly speed, which is 40 feet. The dragon, unfortunately, cannot take this action again until the start of its next turn. Their second legendary action is Sonic Boom, which lets them cast Shatter. Again, once the dragon uses this, they cannot take this action again until the start of their next turn. Lastly, they have their Tail Swipe ability, which lets them make 1 rend attack. The ancient dragon just gets stat boosts, so I'll go over those. Their AC goes up from 19 to 22. Their HP goes from 212 to 481. And their initiative goes from plus 10 to plus 14. Their burrow speed goes from 30 feet to 40 feet to match their walking speed. And most of their stats get a big buff. Their strength goes from a 25, which is a plus 7, to a 29, which is a plus 9. Their dexterity saving throw goes from a plus 5 to a plus 7, though the stat itself doesn't get boosted. Their constitution goes from a 23, which is a plus 6, to a 27, which is a plus 8. Their intelligence goes up from a 16, which is a plus 3, to an 18, which is a plus 4. Their wisdom goes from 15, which is a +2, to 17, which is a +3, and their saving throw goes up from +7 to a +10. This means that the ancient blue dragons' best saving throw is their wisdom, even above their strength. Lastly, their charisma goes up from a 20, which is a +5, to a 25, which is a +7. Their perception goes up from a +12 to a +17, and their stealth goes up from a +5 to a +7. Ancient dragons get one more legendary resistance all around, and their rend goes from a +12 to hit to a +16 to hit. The range increases from 10 feet to 15 feet, and it does an extra 1d10 lightning damage on top of the boost that you get from your strength increasing. The lightning breath goes from a DC 19 dexterity saving throw to a DC 23 dexterity saving throw. The range increases from 90 feet to 120 feet, and it goes from 5 feet wide to 10 feet wide. The damage goes from 11d10 lightning damage to 16d10 lightning damage. Lastly, the Shatter from their spellcasting goes from their level 2 version to a level 3 version, which means it does 4d8 thunder damage total. The DC also increases from 18 to 22. Lastly, both blue dragons have actions that they get from their layers. They get their sinkhole action, which makes sure that any creature other than the dragon or its allies, whenever they finish a long rest, must roll 1d20. On a 1, a sinkhole opens up beneath the creature, and the creature must succeed on a DC 15 dexterity saving throw or fall 2d4 times 10 feet into that sinkhole. Now, remember that every time someone falls, they take 1d6 damage per 10 feet that they fall. So it does a minimum of 1d6 damage up to 8d6 damage from falling into the sinkhole. Lastly, they have their Spiteful Storms, and any creature within 1 mile of the lair is lightly obscured. Now, any area that's lightly obscured makes sure that people have disadvantage on their perception checks. Now, you may think that this might be relatively useless because blue dragons are huge, and ancient blue dragons are gigantic. So, what does it matter if you have disadvantage on your perception checks? Well, when we get into the tactics, you'll see why disadvantage on perception checks is such a bad idea for your party. The blue dragon is a dragon who plans long ahead of time. They are not a reckless type of dragon, and they will spy on the party long before the party is able to get to their lair. Their ability to scry once a day will be used to get as much information on the party as possible through spying, so they will know the capabilities of the party inside and out. They also have one use of sending per day, which will be used to either warn minions of the party's approach or to warn other blue dragons nearby. We'll get more into that during the minions section, but blue dragons are the most social of the chromatic dragons. Stealth and dragons don't tend to go hand in hand. However, blue dragons are a bit of a different breed when it comes to using the element of surprise. While a +5 or +7 stealth modifier isn't the absolute best on its own, a lot of different factors come into play that make them a lot harder to find. First, their lair is lightly obscured all around, which gives anybody who doesn't have something like blind sight or tremor sense disadvantage on perception checks. This will apply to the minions of the dragon also, but won't apply to the dragon itself while they are within the blind sight range. Secondly, the dragon can cast invisibility on themselves, which would give them advantage on stealth checks on top of the fact that the players would have disadvantage on perception checks. Both of these facts even the playing field for the dragon, even when their stealth is relatively low for the level that they're at. Not to mention the fact that they might not even be above ground, since they have a good burrow speed. The party won't expect to look underground for a dragon until it's too late. If the party is caught off guard and the minions don't put the party into a fighting stance, that means the party will have disadvantage on initiative rolls because of the surprise, and the blue dragon will have advantage on initiative rolls because it was invisible. Either way, the blue dragon is most likely going to go first because of its high modifier. When it does go first, it's going to try and use its lightning breath, staying invisible to get into the perfect position to hit as many targets as possible. Now, the fact that the breath weapon is a line is both a blessing and a curse. It's less likely to hit minions since it is a line and therefore less likely to do friendly fire, but you will also have to be more strategic on where you place the dragon to get the most effective breath weapon off. The blue dragon is going to try and keep away from the party either by flying or going underground for its first turn, and they're also going to try and target enemies with a bad dexterity modifier, since they'll know the party's weaknesses from scrying. The legendary actions that they will take during this turn will be using Tail Swipe against any creature that gets too close, and saving their Cloaked Flight legendary action for when the party gets too close to them, or near when their turn's coming up again, so that they will be invisible for their turn next round. You most likely won't be using Sonic Boom too often unless you have to hit 2 or more party members with the attack. As for the second round, if their breath weapon does not recharge, they are going to try and rend as many party members as they can that have healing capabilities. So the clerics and the druids of the party will be the target of the physical attacks or the shatter when they're able to cast it. Though, truthfully, I wouldn't be using Shatter on just one opponent, as the rend attack generally does better damage overall. Another thing to note is that blue dragons are not immune to any damage dealt by Shatter, since it does thunder damage, and blue dragons are immune to lightning damage. So they'll most likely not use it if it's near them, unless they can take out their enemies that are close to them. Lastly, they will be attacking at the maximum range that the rend attack affords them to avoid any opportunity attacks against them from the party if they have to flee. So, who would the blue dragon target, and what would he target them with? Well, clerics and druids will be targeted with anything in the blue dragon's arsenal. They keep the party up, so they want to take them out. Same thing with any magic user that has spells like Hold Monster, since the blue dragon never wants to be trapped in one place. Rogues and monks will be targeted with physical attacks and shatter, as the blue dragon will know that their lightning breath will most likely have very little effect on them because of their evasion. The opposite will also apply to paladins and fighters in heavy armor, as they're most likely not going to have a good dexterity at all and get fully damaged by a lightning breath. The only thing that you'll have to be extra careful about is barbarians, as they're most likely to have a decent dexterity, they'll have advantage on dexterity saving throws because of their danger sense, and they will have resistance to physical attacks while they're raging. Blue dragons will most likely try to use environmental traps to keep barbarians out of their range. Lastly, when they get bloodied, they're going to flee, even if they're within their lair. Most of their loot is very durable, such as gemstones or gold, so they won't have to worry about it getting wrecked. They build their lairs specifically to be collapsible, so they will collapse the lair behind them as they flee to possibly trap the party underneath the rubble. The notable exception to this is when the party is trying to harm their young. Blue dragons are very family-oriented, and while they're generally considered to be evil, they're also generally considered to be pretty good parents. If the party is trying to kill their children or destroy their eggs, the blue dragon will fight to the death to protect them, and they will viciously kill anyone who tries to mess with their family. Blue dragons are unique in the fact that they will have a lot of minions. They like to rule over other mortals, and they will most likely have cultists in their lair to keep up appearances. Any of the cultist stat blocks will work as minions for the blue dragon, and realistically, the cultists would be in charge of setting up the magical traps around the lair. Another minion type that they would have is the kobold, and they would most likely be setting up the non-magical traps around the lair. To see how to run kobolds, you can check out the video I made on them to get a sense on how to run them. Lastly, they would not be the only dragons in their lair. The blue dragon is a very family-oriented creature, and they would at least have their partner in the lair with them. They might have also have young blue dragons or dragon wormlings roaming around the lair, though whether you have them be encountered as the party gets into the lair or during the boss fight itself is up to you. But either way, the blue dragon is unique because they are not solitary creatures. They will not be the only dragon in the lair. One last thing is that if the blue dragon or its partner didn't use their sending spell, they might use it during battle to call upon another blue dragon in the area. Blue dragons tend to share territory, and so they live relatively close by. While the party probably won't be able to fight another adult or ancient blue dragon, it would give them a bit of time to escape before the backup comes to help the dragon that called for help. It gives the players a bit of a ticking time bomb, so they don't spend hours looting the cave. The blue dragon picks loot not because of its beauty, but because of its worth. For example, it might have some paintings in its lair. It does not have these paintings because of their artistic value, but instead because they might have political or social value. The more politically valuable a piece is, the more likely the blue dragon will want it. They also like things that are durable, like gemstones and gold. Their favorite is sapphire, but they will also take gems like amethyst or emeralds because of their color. Things like crowns or scepters are the most sought after by the blue dragon because they combine the two. Lastly, for magic items, the monster manual recommends relics, which makes sense because relics tend to have the most social and political power, as well as being powerful magic items. They most likely won't have anything like a potion or a scroll, but they will have jewelry like an amulet of health or a scarab of protection. They will also have magic items that can be decorational, such as a candle of evocation or a brazier of controlling elements. And that's the end of the video. Blue dragons are probably one of the more interesting dragons to run, not just because of their burrow speed or their lightning breath, but because of just how prepared they are. They have scrying to spy on the party's weaknesses and strengths and all that. They have a collapsible layer, which they can collapse behind them to make their escape for other party members. They have minions. They actually like to work with minions. And so the minions can also set up traps around the lair. And lastly, they're not going to be the only dragon in their lair. Unlike most of the chromatic dragons, these blue dragons are family-oriented. So if you're going into the lair of a blue dragon, you're most likely going to fight at least 2 of them. And if they have a family, it's probably more going to be 4 to 7. Though not all of them are going to be at the level of an adult or ancient blue dragon. Not to mention, they can also call blue dragons from other layers nearby to help them out, and they most likely will. So, I truthfully think the blue dragon is the most dangerous dragon the players can fight. Not because of their strength, because frankly a lot of the other dragons are stronger, but because of the family unit that the blue dragons have. Since you're not fighting one by itself, you have a lot more to deal with as a party. But anyways, this is Monster Half-Life. I'd like you to like, comment, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.